And good morning to those of you on the West Coast. My name is Bernard Hernandez, and I am Chief Information Officer with DM&A. Thanks for joining us today for today's webinar to learn about Pantry Retail and the exciting, innovative solutions they offer for fresh, healthy retail. Just a few logistics before we begin. During the webinar, the phone lines will be on mute, and you will be in listen-only mode. There will be time at the end for questions. Please type your questions using the questions box in your GoToWebinar control panel. You can type a question anytime during the webinar, and we will answer as many as we can. Those that we do not get to, we will reply via email after the webinar. The presentation handout will also be emailed to you after the webinar, as well as a link to watch a recording of the webinar at a later time. Our special guest today is Alex Yancher. Alex is the co-founder and head of sales for Pantry Retail. Alex graduated summa cum laude from UC Berkeley, and he began his career as an investment banker with Morgan Stanley, covering a range of food industry clients, including CPK and Peet's Coffee. After Morgan Stanley, Alex joined the business operations team at Facebook, where he managed strategic and operational projects around monetization. Alex then went on to co-found Pantry, a food service solution that provides 24/7 unattended access to fresh food and beverages. Also with us today is Bill Klein, Chief Executive Officer of DM&A. Bill has over 30 years in the food service industry with an emphasis on healthcare. Under Bill's tremendous leadership, we have become one of the largest healthcare consulting firms in America, and now doing great work in Australia and the Middle East. Thanks again for joining us today. We know your time is valuable. So without further ado, please welcome Alex Yancher.
Hello, everybody. Thank you for joining us today. I'm really excited to share with you today the vision for Pantry. About 2 years ago, I met Bill and DM&A at the AHF conference in Orlando. At that time, we were in 2 hospital accounts, UCSF Hospital here in San Francisco and Stanford Hospital. This year at the AHF conference, I reconnected with Bill, and we had grown to over 40 facilities, all the way from Hawaii to Alabama. It's been gratifying to see Pantry's solution making fresh food accessible, where a bag of Cheetos used to be the default option. Before we begin the full presentation, I wanted to take this moment to thank Bill, Bernard, and the rest of the DM&A team for giving me an opportunity to tell the Pantry story to all of you today.
Yes, it's wonderful to be here, Alex, and everybody out there in the internet world. It's important to note, as you see on the first slide, as Alex expressed, that we have representation from Alabama to Hawaii and all points in between, and knowing that the focus of this group on our attendance group is all self-operated food service leadership, that 2 names jump out on the screen, Sodexo and Bon Appetit, both which we all know are contract management companies. What Pantry represents and why DM&A is supporting Pantry's movement into the marketplace, it provides not only the healthy food choices and options, which we'll talk about today, but it also provides innovation that organizations like Sodexo and Bon Appetit have already realized, and the self-operated world also needs to get their hands around and understand and leverage this, because we don't need a representative of these companies knocking on our bosses' doors saying, I have innovation and I can bring it to your doorstep. Back to you, Alex.
Thank you, Bill. There truly is a revolution happening in fresh and healthy eating in the country. One of the first signs for me was that the cupcake and frozen yogurt shops in my neighborhood shut down and got taken over by the healthier cold-pressed juiceries. Another local example for me is the hottest lunchtime spot is a salad place called Mixed Greens here in San Francisco, and on the East Coast they have their own version called Sweet Greens. There's also a huge shift coming away from soda. Soda sales are down double digits over the last 5 years. If you've heard of the company called SodaStream, they've had to completely rebrand their entire company away from being an in-home Coke and Pepsi replacement to a sparkling water maker. But of course, eating healthy is just one plank out of the tectonic shift that's happening in our society towards health and wellness. One of my favorite data points around this is that Fitbit, that small little company that just started a few years ago, has sold over 25 million health trackers already. And of course, that number doesn't include Jawbones and the other players in the field like Nike's Fuel Band.
Yeah, it's true, Alex. We're all seeing, feeling, and making operational adjustments to address the growing demands of our customer base. From sodas to fries, administration and consumers are truly pressing food service leadership for making better choices and providing innovation. This started with patient room service, which of course should be healthy by virtue of the fresh-made focus. But now retail, no matter where people are encountering it, are also looking for these choices of health and better selections for their nutrition. Back to you, Alex.
So the food service industry has certainly done a great job in listening to customers and accommodating the changing preferences. But there's a Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde dynamic in the industry. As soon as the cafe is closed, the food offering goes from fresh turkey sandwiches, Santa Fe chicken salads, and fruit cups over to packaged triangle sandwiches loaded with preservatives, frozen Hot Pockets, and cans of Coke. Mr. Hyde, of course, in this metaphor, is the vending machine. Vending machines have traditionally been the after-hour solution or the option that's there when you're in a hurry. But per the last slide and per the last point, tastes and preferences are changing. What was okay just a decade ago just really isn't okay anymore, and it's quite embarrassing, actually. Now, the problem is the vending ecosystem just does not work for fresh food. And there's two primary reasons why it doesn't work for fresh food. The first one is a just machine hardware issue. Fresh food comes in so many different shapes and sizes. You can't possibly put a cylindrical, call it bowl of soup and a salad bowl and a sandwich in between the coils. And even those rotating wheel ones don't fit everything perfectly, like burritos, for example. The second issue with the current stock of vending machines is, as opposed to chips, candy, and soda, fresh food expires and is in fact meant to sell out. But the current stock of machines, they don't track freshness, they don't track inventory, and they don't relay information back to the operator to let them know when the machine needs to be restocked. And the last issue with sort of the hardware build of it is nobody associates freshness with these machines. And as folks who work in the food business, we all know that people eat with their eyes. And the food in vending machines just doesn't look appetizing, and people just don't want to take a risk. People don't really understand what's inside of it. So that's the sort of the physical hardware aspect of it. The second big issue with sort of the vending ecosystem is that vending operators aren't food producers. They're middlemen. They buy food from a third-party distributor. That third-party distributor probably bought it from some food manufacturer. So by the time you get the sandwich into your cafe, chances are it's been on the road for at least 7 days, sitting on some shelf or some truck. This means that they're fundamentally not able to supply cafes, cafeterias, and other facilities with truly fresh food. Now, at Pantry, we built our company around selling fresh food. We don't sell chips, we don't sell candy from our machines. We're built to sell fresh, quality turkey sandwiches, yogurt parfaits, and all those kind of things. So how did we do it? So the first thing we did was we spent literally years building up the technology for it. We knew we had to create something special for us to really transform the food service industry in terms of the unattended side of it. So there's a couple of things that we did. The first thing that we did is we used RFID technology to track items that go in and out. So what that means is you no longer need to be constrained by coils or slots or really anything. you have a flat shelf and you could put anything onto it that you'd like. Anything from a salad to a sandwich to a cup of soup to a burrito to a wrap, it doesn't matter. It all fits on a pantry shelf. The second thing we did is we connected to the machine to the internet. And that created an amazing opportunity for operators to know exactly what's going on in their kiosk at any given time in terms of sales, in terms of inventory, and in terms of freshness. I'm going to go into a little bit more detail about that aspect of it, the brains aspect of it, in another slide. But suffice to say that a key part of our solution isn't just the unattended kiosk, it's also the rendering of the data that comes with it. Now, the second thing we did was, this was a business model decision that we made when we started the company. We decided we're not going to work with vending operators. Trust me, I get calls all the time from vending operators looking to replace their machines and things like that, but we only want to work with companies that actually make fresh food on a daily basis and would like to retail it as well. And that's been a tremendous change for us in terms of taking this industry into a direction of freshness.
You know, Alex, one thing that strikes me as been very important for the innovation and development of your program is the tracking inventory and sales in real time. A number of the folks online today have vending responsibilities in their organizations, and they have to assign an employee, an FTE, to go around and do a physical inventory of what's in the machines, whether it's chips or candy bars or anything else, and come back and then fill up their cart to bring back and restock. Plus, of course, take the cash out. What's so innovative is that the tracking wirelessly, the production manager in the kitchen, whoever's assigned to this, can merely go online at any time and see what's sold before the employee then takes inventory one time, one direction, goes out and fills up the unit. There is no cash. It's all, as we'll know a little slide later, it's all credit cards and payroll deduction. But to be able to take away the need for that FTE to waste time inventorying is so powerful, given the fact that there's a tremendous amount of FTE pressures on the food service leadership here today and of course going forward. Back to you.
Thank you, Bill. So we have two planks to our solution outside of actually making it feasible for producers to sell food in an unattended environment. The first one is beauty. We wanted to build a solution that operators were proud to put right in the middle of their cafeteria or right in front of it or in a high traffic area where somebody can easily find it and know exactly that this is an extension of a cafeteria. And part of that was creating a simple and delightful customer experience. And again, I'm going to get into a little bit more detail on exactly how it works. But for now, suffice to say that the transaction takes under 7 seconds. It's incredibly seamless, and it's really easy to use for both the end customer and for the restocking team. The second plank of our solution is brains, beauty in brains. Pantry has also built brains into the solution to provide insights to the operator in a simple-to-use online dashboard. As I mentioned earlier, at Pantry, we relay the inventory of every pantry to an operator via our online dashboard. But we also record sales in real time. By capturing when a particular product was purchased, excuse me, we've been able to unlock a few really interesting things. I'll give you one example here. Let's say you stock turkey sandwiches and tuna sandwiches. Let's say 10 each into your pantry, and then let's also assume that you use Pantry as a solution to feed the third shift of nurses and doctors. Then in the morning, your retail manager drops by the pantry and realizes that all 10 of the turkey sandwiches were sold. And all 10 of the tuna sandwiches were sold. Without Pantry's dashboard, the retail manager would conclude that she needs to increase the number of turkey sandwiches and increase the number of tuna sandwiches in equal amounts. But what our data shows is that from midnight through 3 a.m., all the turkey sandwiches were sold out first. But because only tuna was left over and people were still hungry, they ended up buying the tuna sandwiches. But really, tuna sandwiches were their second choice, and they really wanted the turkey ones. So the right solution here would not be to increase both turkey and tuna in equal amounts, but rather it would be to actually increase the turkey sandwiches to 15 and almost counterintuitively to reduce the tuna ones to 5. So that's really the power of, oh, sorry, Bill, go ahead.
Alex, so what you're saying is that although the slide we're seeing right now doesn't definitively show it, that I could go online and see the incremental purchases of any given item hour by hour and make those determinations?
Exactly.
That's powerful.
Exactly right. Every day, our operators use our dashboard to make mission-critical decisions of what needs to be restocked and when it needs to be restocked, and they optimize not just sales, but they also optimize profits in this way and reduce spoilage. So let's quickly talk about how does it actually work. What does a customer see when he or she comes up to a pantry stocked with your fresh food? So the first thing that the customer sees is a tablet interface with a button that says menu and prices. So there's two ways to check what the price of a product is. One of the ways is to click on the tablet screen, look at the menu and prices, and scroll and just see it that way. Another way is to actually just peer in and look. The door is locked when you come up to the kiosk. The way to unlock the door is to either use your employee badge, assuming that we've integrated with the provider that you use. Feel free to reach out to me to see if Pantry works with your specific payroll deduct provider. And then the other way, of course, is to use a credit card to unlock the door. So a person would come up, swipe the credit card, takes a couple of seconds to authorize that card, the door unlocks, and there's a pop sound, there's some flashing lights, so the person knows that the door is unlocked. The person opens the door, and here's the cool part. The customer could actually pick up a salad, read the ingredients, look at the caloric information, and put it back if it doesn't suit their needs. This
Alex,
is a huge breakthrough in unattended retail. Yes, Bill.
Alex, on that point, taking it out, which we know people will do, they'll examine, including looking at the nutritionals nowadays. How much time do they have to take it out and examine it before they get charged?
Great question, Bill. A transaction is only complete once they've closed the door and walk away with the product. So as long as the door is open, we let them interact with we let them pick up the salad, we let them pick up the sandwich, and really understand what they're buying the way they would, by the way, at Whole Foods or in your regular cafeteria. It's unheard of in a Whole Foods to first pay for a product and then get it. First you get the product, then you wait in line, and then you pay for it, right? So we've tried to replicate that experience buying fresh food that people are used to in supermarkets and in other cafeterias. So by doing so, we've really created a bridge of trust with the customer. And people are no longer looking the way they used to at a vending machine going, you know, I have no clue how long that's been on a shelf. With Pantry, they know, because the operator will presumably put a use by date or a sell by date onto the product, and they'll be able to actually see it. And moreover, they could actually see the freshness with their own two eyes in the product. And that's been really huge for sales for Pantry. And then in terms of a receipt, sorry, Bill, I was going to finish one thought on how somebody actually gets a receipt. Once you're done with the transaction, you close the door, and then a screen pops up, and we let you enter your email if you'd like us to email you a receipt so you know that we charged you accurately. Please do.
Alex, how would, in the transition from a vending program into a pantry program, we all, as consumers, the hospital staff, non-food service, that the vending is probably provided by an outside company. When Stanford made the change over to Pantry, how is it communicated that this food you're buying now is freshly made here on premises?
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. There is a certain amount of thoughtfulness that has to go into every single deployment because this is a game changer and people aren't used to it. We need to communicate to people what this is. So we did a couple of things at Stanford. So the first thing that we did was we actually gave everything 50% off the first couple of days just to get people, just to get the stakeholders in the hospital comfortable with using the machine, understanding that this is actually the same food that the Sodexo team, Stanford Hospital is managed by Sodexo, that the Sodexo team whips up in the regular cafeteria. And then there's actually a simpler answer here, and it's that the manufacturer's label is still on that product. So if you have a roll of sushi in the cafeteria, that exact same label that's on the roll of sushi in the cafeteria is going to be on the roll of sushi that's in the pantry. So people are familiar with the product mix that's in the cafeteria, and they'll find it familiar with the same products that are in the pantry. And the other thing that we do, and we actually encourage this, some take us up on the offer, some don't, but what we encourage people to do is we actually encourage hospitals to rebrand the pantry given the specific hospital location. So at Sharp, for example, their cafe is called Mindful. So now the graphics on the pantry on the side of the unit actually say Mindful. So in people's minds, they can easily associate that the Mindful products that are inside the regular cafe are the same exact products that are inside of the pantry.
So that's something that somebody would, when they contract with you, that's something that they would work with you. So the graphic slide on the outside would be different than what you provide as a normal static marketing piece.
Correct. So whenever the hospital doesn't want to rebrand it, we deploy it with our colorful brand, pantry colors and blocks and all that, and that works as well. We never deploy a fridge that has no branding at all and it has sort of like a black side. That we never do. All right.
Going back to the point, Alex, go back for a second. Going back to the point about using credit cards, or most hospitals nowadays have payroll deduction. What are you seeing from Alabama to Hawaii? What are you seeing as the main HR payroll systems that you already interface with?
Sure. So we're currently working with Freedom Pay and Cardsmith and Blackboard. We're close to finalizing an integration with Seaboard. There are a handful of other ones that are sort of in our queue. For example, yesterday I met with the representative from Systopia, but so far, whenever we get sort of a critical mass of requests for a particular system, that's when a trigger goes off on our development side, where we go, okay, it's time for us to accommodate this type of solution as well. That's how we think about it.
Good, great, thank you.
Of course. So now let's talk about what it means to use a pantry from the hospital side, from the operator side. In order to sell through a pantry, every single product needs to have an RFID tag that's been encoded with that product's information on it. All the hospital needs to do, or you know what, I shouldn't say hospital, all the food service team members need to do is tell us which products you'd like to sell. And we take it from there. And then over time, on our dashboard, you could either add new products or you could delete old products. But the point is, all you have to do is tell us which products you have to sell, and we take care of the full stack solution in terms of getting the tags ready, printing them, encoding them, and then sending them over to the food service team. And then in terms of stocking, it's really a magical experience. A restocker comes up to the pantry. All she needs to do is type in her login credentials onto the tablet screen. The door will open. So, of course, we don't require a restocker to carry a credit card and open the door as if they'd be a customer. We have them use the username and password field. They take the products that have been tagged with the Pantry Smart Tag. They'll put it in, and automatically, in a millisecond, we take inventory of everything that has just been placed into the pantry, and we render it on the dashboard. Excuse me. What this means is there's no manual entry, there's no Excel sheets, there's no paper sheets of keeping track of what you're putting in and what you're taking out. Everything is recorded online instantaneously. And the manager is actually able to open up the dashboard and that very second log in and see everything that the restocker had just put in.
Alex, you mentioned that, you all the RFID tags. If I was to change, from 1 week to the next, how much lead time would a production team need to communicate to you that they're going to be now putting out there a ciabatta, turkey sandwich with guacamole, and get those RFIDs?
It's a great question. So we've addressed it a couple of ways. One is we've shortened the time that it takes to get tags ready, and it's about 3 days. So as long as you just tell us 3 days before, we'll look those tags up for you and send them over. But there's another solution that some of our very clever clients have taken on, and what they've done is instead of having SKU-specific tag requests for us, so saying, a turkey sandwich on ciabatta, a turkey sandwich on rye, a turkey sandwich on whole wheat or whatever, right? What they do is they'll just say, get us tags for turkey sandwiches. And then they take that tag and they'll place it on one on ciabatta, they'll place the one on sourdough, they'll place the one on wheat, whatever they happen to be whipping up for that particular week. Now, you could go as general as you'd like, so you don't even need to say specifically we need a turkey sandwich tag, we just need a sandwich tag. The caveat with that particular solution is that you lose a little bit of granularity in the data set. So when you go back in time and you start reviewing the data and you want to see trends and you want to see what's going on, you'll see how well sandwiches are doing, but you won't really know how well the turkey sandwiches are doing versus the roast beef sandwiches unless you have an external way of tracking that information. And of course, you won't know if the ciabatta breaded turkey sandwiches or the whole wheat ones do better. So if that kind of granularity is important to you, then certainly we'd have to print specific tags for those particular items.
Got it. Understood.
Great. So let's talk about what this looks like in the real world in action. I love our Stanford Hospital case study because we hold constant the most important factor in sales, and that's location. So in this particular case, when we deployed our units at Stanford Hospital, they actually replaced one of those machines that the team there called the Wheel of Death. And we asked the team there how much that Wheel of Death machine was making in sales, and they said, oh, it was making about $500 in sales per month. And of course, they stocked, the Hot Pockets and the triangle sandwiches and all that. When we installed a pantry, sales didn't just go up 20% or 50% or 100%. Sales went up 7 times. This is a truly transformational example of the power of both the look, feel, and the food coalescing into one solution, and the sales just blew the folks away there.
Alex, regarding Stanford's unique and very powerful transformation, what couple of things can you share that they did to change people's mindset from the Wheel of Death over to something far superior for the folks to consider if they decide to go this route?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it's sort of the equivalent of taking the McDonald's that you would see in your street and replacing it with a Shake Shack, or replacing it with a mixed greens, which is a more pertinent example here. You know, people would just be blind to that wheel of death machine. People who watch what they eat and are thoughtful about what they put into their bodies just avoided that machine like the plague. As soon as the pantry went up, we did a couple of things. So one is we put this beautiful sandwich board that advertised the solution and promoted it. The second thing that we did was the first couple of weeks we made sure it was filled to the brim and it looked like a cornucopia of fresh sandwiches and salads. And we put really aspirational items there like sushi and fruit cups and really colorful items. So having a really well thought out planogram that really pops is really helpful. And people would actually, it would catch their eye. What is this new fresh food option that's available to us now? So just being thoughtful about, just the way the team was thoughtful about the coolers that they would stock in the regular cafe, that was sort of their attitude to a pantry. This is just another cooler that we have to stock as part of our program here. But this one is standalone, and it's not within the confines of the cafe, so we need to be particularly thoughtful about how we assort the different products together there.
And I'm sure that, you know, as anybody starts a program with Pantry, that you can provide, you know, them these ideas and suggestions that you've seen working everywhere else.
Yeah, absolutely. We have some planograms that have just been home runs for specific situations. And you know, I'll say this: if we're thinking about the solution to be, you know, in an emergency department waiting room, for example, the planogram for that should be a little bit different than if we're thinking about this as a third shift option. So one would be more snack heavy, with those snack boxes that you'll find at Starbucks with the almonds and the pieces of cheese and the grapes, versus say the planogram for if you're solving for actual meals for a third shift. That's where you would need more hearty items, maybe even a microwavable spaghetti and meatball option as an example, right?
Sure.
All right. So I'll leave off the presentation before I go into some details around cost and connectivity and sort of details about our solution. I'll leave off with this because this is really the spirit of the program. Think of Pantry as a 24/7 extension of your cafe.
Okay. And it truly is, because you know, we're seeing hospitals that have either had, never had a third shift, by the way, or took it away for either loss of sales or FTE reductions or so forth. Also, reducing the night meal hours from, say, 4 till 7 or 8 till 4 till 6, so forth, and either have no cafe on the weekends or having reduced hours. This is a great way to offer new or restore some of what was eliminated, which can only bode well for staff satisfaction. And many hospitals now are surveying their staff with Gallup and other kinds of survey metrics to gauge their satisfaction with decisions of the organization. The Stanford sales that we saw earlier seem to validate this.
That's right. Let's talk about a few things that are really important to food service operators, which make these things really important to Pantry as we build upon our solution. So the first thing is food safety. Our units are connected to the internet, and we have wirelessly connected sensors that are lodged into the unit, so we know exactly when the temperature rises above an unsafe threshold. And we make it actionable. You could actually lock down a kiosk remotely if the temperature rises above an unsafe threshold directly on your online dashboard. We could also communicate information to your end customers via the tablet interface. If something were to happen, say an earthquake or any other kind of natural disaster, and the unit needs to be shut down to prevent people from gaining access to food that is no longer safe, we'll lock down the kiosk and we'll actually display that information on the tablet itself. The other things that we display on the tablet is we let people know allergen information. We'll tell people something is gluten-free. We'll say if it contains nuts. We'll let people know if it's kosher. All on the tablet interface. Basically, you and your teams have control over what customers see in regards to the products that you put into the pantry directly on the screen.
You know, Alex, I'm not aware of any vending machines coast to coast as we go around that can lock the door and to their unit and protect consumer safety. That's highly important in this day and age, especially with fresh foods. And one of the prior slides talked about sandwiches with mold or things out of date, which I think and out of the 50-some odd people on the webinar today, I'm sure some of us have encountered this personally or in our operations where someone came to the cashier and paid all their money back. And of course, the point of sale data that you're talking about is growing in need and requirements. As we all know, for example, gluten is on the rise as a health concern, along with other food allergies. And not to diminish it, but the age of our patients is pretty much 65 up, and folks visiting them could be of the same age, and they may be on medicine. So it's important to know what is on those or in those products so that they don't have any conflicts with the medicines they may be taking, not least of which are employees. So you're offering some tremendous information that's not readily available through static vending machines.
Exactly right. Let's talk about, I'll loop this conversation on credit card security into one about connectivity. So how does Pantry actually connect to the internet? Because this is going to be a question that I'm sure is going to come up. We connect to the internet in 3 ways. And there's one way here that's really bubbled up as something that hospitals have absolutely loved. So the first way is an Ethernet cable. That's sort of a hardwired cable that goes into the unit. The second way we connect is to a Wi-Fi network. And that one, we've gotten a lot of pushback on that one from hospital IT departments because of safety issues. The third way, and this has been the rockstar way, is we could connect via cellular network. So the way your iPhone or your Android devices connect to the internet via the AT&T or the Verizon network, we can connect to the internet that same way. And that has been deemed to be the most secure, safest way of connecting and transferring data back and forth. Now, in terms of credit card security, we are absolutely 100% PCI compliant. We went above and beyond for security. We even encrypt our solution end-to-end. We never store anybody's credit card information. And we use, maybe you've heard of the names, the Magenta and the Magenta Safe 2.0 solutions to really make sure that your customers' credit cards are as safe as they possibly can be. To give you an idea, we've passed the gauntlet. We're at Cisco Systems right now. They're a networking solution company, big company here in San Jose, and they ran us through their IT gauntlet. We went through multiple review processes, and we were deemed to be a secure enough solution for them to implement Pantry across all their campuses around the United States, including here in San Jose, but also in North Carolina and in Massachusetts. So I feel comfortable that we'll pass any IT criteria that your respective hospitals have.
Well, that'll resonate well because in hospitals we live every day with HIPAA concerns and security for patient information. This just is another version of that, Alex.
Exactly, and we're certainly HIPAA compliant for all regulations. So now let's talk about the cost for the unit. So one unique thing about Pantry is we don't sell the units. We rent the machine. We rent the machine for $400 a month, prepaid in 6-month increments. This is a brand new way of selling food, and we respect that. So we only ask folks to commit for 6 months. After the 6 months, you're free to remove the machine. We'll take it back at no cost, no issue at all. But I gotta tell you, out of the 40 accounts that we have, not a single one has returned a machine yet, because this is gonna be a huge hit with the nursing team, with the doctors, and of course with the patients and their visitors. And then in terms of the Pantry Smart Tag, it's 15 cents per RFID tag. I know we're going to get into questions in a second, but I saw somebody had asked, what is RFID? So let me actually explain that with a really simple example. If you guys are familiar with the tags that get placed on the back of a pack of, say, razor blades or something like that, and then you walk out and the pillars on the side of the Walgreens, they'll start beeping. So that's RFID technology. But what we've done, what's special about the Pantry solution is, while those are meant for theft prevention, we've turned that solution on its head and we use it for inventory management and inventory tracking. So every unit has antennas that are built in and that are constantly taking inventory of all the RFID tags that are inside of the cooler. And that's how we know, one, what gets placed into inventory, and that's how we know when somebody takes something out, what they took out, based on that inventory tag, the same way a Walgreens would know if you sort of stole the razor blades without having that tag unencoded. All right. So, folks, that's the end of the presentation. Thank you so much for the time. Thank you for listening. We're going to get into questions. My contact information is here. I'm sure we're going to have a method by which we can communicate my information, the website, and how to order a Pantry. So obviously, of course, call me for a free consultation. And if you do it within the next 30 days, please use the discount code Nutrition10. Just let me know either in an email or when we speak so I know where the lead came from. And then, of course, part of that is you'll receive $400 off per unit that you order within the first 60 days of initiating conversation with Pantry.
Excellent, Alex. Here's one question. Will Pantry ever be able to offer the same service, having carefully selected, of course, frozen foods kept inside of it? In other words, having a freezer unit for those who want to have lean cuisines or whatever, if that's their preference for the overnight staff.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, if it's there's some very higher end frozen options that I think we'd be honored to have in our kiosk, like Amy's, for example, has some great options that you could find at Whole Foods. So currently, we don't manufacture a freezer unit. However, that is in our pipeline, but it will only be ready in about a year.
Gotcha. And I assume that there are operators out there that would like to put in refrigerated items, cold items that would be reheated. For example, their homemade soups or perhaps burgers or other kinds of products that they would like to microwave. Does Pantry offer any kind of support for a adjoining table where a microwave could be placed?
Yeah, that's actually how a lot of our solutions look. What they often do at some of our client sites is they'll prepare to-go entrees that they've already made for the lunch program. So, like I said, spaghetti and meatballs is a great example. Lasagna, things like that. Chicken, teriyaki chicken and rice with some broccoli. They'll put it in to-go containers, and they'll put it into a pantry after the lunch ends at around 2:30. And then those products are sold now for the third shift and later on in the day if people miss the lunch program. So while we wouldn't provide the microwave or a table or anything like that, but we could connect you with clients who have successfully implemented a similar program, and I'm sure they'd be happy to let you know what sort of best practices are and how to do that. But that's a great idea.
Super. That's the only questions that we had posted. Knowing that we're respectful of people's time, we're got done 10 minutes early. So I appreciate your time today, Alex, sharing this great solution with all of us out here in the self-operated world. They have your information, and as Bernard indicated earlier, all the attendees will receive the PowerPoint sent out to them later on today.
Excellent.
Great, Alex and Bill, thank you so much for presenting today and taking the time and for sharing your amazing and exciting technology. Excellent job. Have a great rest of the day, everyone.
Thank you. Thank you, everybody.